Ladies and gentlemen, friends, this is Puji Pujono again from Rumah Residency Indonesia, being held in conjunction with Global Platform on Disaster Risk Reduction, the 7th session here in the beautiful island of Bali, Indonesia, 2022. I'm honored now to introduce you to our dear friend, the Minister of Disaster, Mr. Honorable Inia Serui from Fiji. Briefly, I will ask him to introduce himself and also Fiji, and we'll talk briefly on what Fiji's challenges and achievements so far, and the significance of the event and the way forward on Fiji. Minister, welcome. Welcome to Bali, certainly.
Thank you, Dr. Puji, and good to see you again after a few years. Ladies and gentlemen, friends of Fiji, I am Honorable Inia Serui, Fiji's Minister for Defense, National Security and Policing, and I'm also Fiji's Minister for Rural and Maritime Development and Disaster Management. I'm here in Bali for the 7th Global Platform on Disaster Risk Reduction, and it's an opportunity for us to share about Fiji's experiences and of course the need for us to network and work in partnership so that we can collectively address the challenges that confront us. Fiji, as you all know, is a small island developing state in the Pacific region with about 900,000 people and comprising of 300 islands. And thus the challenges that we face in responding to the needs of our people when it comes to disasters.
Right, Minister, I believe our colleagues would agree with me that Fiji represent the realities of the Pacific Island states. And they have unique challenges. They are not present anywhere like in Indonesia or in the US or anywhere. Could you just very briefly describe for us, what are these unique challenges in terms of climate and disaster reduction confronting the Pacific Island states, Minister?
Thank you, Dr. Puji. For Fiji and most of the small island developing states in the Pacific region, we are amongst the most vulnerable in the world. Not only in terms of how climate change is affecting us, but at the same time, we are also experiencing.
You are on the path of the hard weather from time to time.
We are
a couple of times a year.
On the path of the devastating effects of superstorms and tropical cyclones. In the last few years alone, we have had about 16 cyclones within the last decade. And that has brought about a lot of damages and losses and years of development being lost.
And also rolled back, no? From in terms of SDGs achievement, those disasters would roll back the
Yes, we have our development aspirations. And Fiji, as a developing country, we have our national development plan. But unfortunately, when disasters do strike, we lose these years of achievements through development. In tropical cyclone Winston alone, what is recorded in history as the strongest cyclone that have ever made landfall in the southern hemisphere in 2016, we lost a third of our GDP within 36 hours.
Within 36 hours?
44 people. And 400 and something houses. Plus the devastation to our economy, particularly in terms of agriculture and fisheries and forestry and tourism. So this is what Fiji is going through when it comes to disasters. On climate change, despite what people think about the IPCC report, they don't need to tell us because we live in a region
with that reality
experience climate change daily. We are seeing the rising sea levels. We have to relocate our people now because of the rising sea level. That affects our coastal farmers in terms of saltwater intrusion into their plantations, including rice fields.
And a host of other issues related to climate.
Ocean acidification is a serious issue. There are times where we see that our marine resources are dying, coral
Right,
are dying
right.
because of the ocean acidification and the warm oceans
Yep,
in
yep.
the Pacific, and this attracts
Right, right.
storm into our region. So that's climate change.
Well, a host of issues. Now, the Honorable Minister, as you heard earlier, he holds so many portfolios, from defense to policing, disaster management, maritime, and agriculture. Given all that, Minister, what has PG been doing to counter, if you like, or to reduce the risk posed by disasters and climate change?
Thank you. This is a really good question. First, let me say that in this new norm, we need a pragmatic approach.
Right, right.
We are seeing the issues unfolding, and we are experiencing the devastation caused by these calamities.
Right.
Therefore, we need to act and act now. Let's not delay it.
Right.
Because the solutions are needed now. We need to respond.
Right.
So, in this new norm, as we call it, we need pragmatic actions.
Right.
Secondly, we need political will and commitment and leadership. We have ratified the Paris Agreement. We have ratified the Sendai framework.
Right.
It's not just about ratification, but we need to act. And
Right.
this needs to come from
And
the
how
top
to
leadership.
apply those principles to
Yes.
the ground, essentially,
This
right?
needs to come from the top leadership. That goodwill and commitment by the government is essential. In Fiji, we have made a lot of changes.
Right.
And you would recall that after Cyclone Winston in 2016, our development paradigm shifted.
Okay.
Shifting from reaction to prevention. What is that new development paradigm? It has resilience at its core,
Right.
and it has sustainability and respecting humanitarian principles. Because the way we living is changing. The way we do development must also change, and therefore the way we also do partnership must
Right,
change.
right.
We have introduced our national disaster risk reduction policy in 2018 because every investment that we do in disaster reduction means saving millions of dollars in the future. It's a challenge for a small developing country
And
like
yet,
Fiji.
and yet it requires the investment now.
Yes.
Right? And that investment has to compete with other requirements and needs of Fiji.
There are other competing sectors,
Correct,
but
correct.
I'm thankful that our government is making that commitment, and through the partnerships, our partners are also coming in. But
Good.
that is a necessity,
Right,
and
right.
that is something that does not need to be delayed.
Right.
So we have the National Disaster Risk Reduction Policy with 122 items
Right.
listed, and I'm glad that in the last audit that we did, we are progressing and progressing well. There are still gaps,
Yep.
but definitely it can be fixed.
Minister, towards the midterm review of Sendai framework, people say that the first 15 years or 10 years or so of Sendai is dedicated to do preparatory measures, creating a policy and institution and all that. And the second part will really the implementation on the ground. That means talking to local government, to communities, civil societies and all that. How is Fiji preparing itself for the deepening of the implementation of Sendai's framework?
I would
Minister?
say, Dr. Puji, that for Fiji, I can confidently say that most of the preparatory work has been covered already.
Right,
But
right.
now we are more into the implementation. Why is this so important for Fiji?
Yeah.
Because delay means losses.
Correct.
Delay means costs incurred in the future, which are unnecessary.
And increasing risk, actually.
And
right?
of course, the risks that are involved or the risks that come with it.
Right, right,
So, as I've stated, we have just conducted an audit before we came to this, and I'm thankful that out of the 122 action items, about more than 90 of those action items are
It's
already
almost
underway.
75% of this commitment actually
Exactly,
being implemented.
exactly.
Excellent. Congratulations for
Thank
that.
you indeed.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me segue very quickly into this event here, Global Platform on Disaster Reduction. Now, Minister, for the first time in history, the Global Platform has crossed the equatorial and being run at the Global South and Indonesia, and there's the Islands of Gods as Bali is hosting. To you, Minister, and to Fiji, how significant is this event?
I'm thankful that the United Nations has finally recognized and decided to take this bold step because they need to see reality.
Right.
And we are the ones that are experiencing the wrath.
And living every day with that
This is
reality.
our life.
Right.
And for them, particularly in most of the developed countries, although everybody is affected by climate change and disasters, but it's disproportionate.
Correct.
For them to come here and see and hear and learn, that is something that we appreciate, and we hope that this will be a thing to be considered and continued into the future.
Now let me bring to a small or rather specific topic. Fiji and Indonesia, right? When I was at your office a couple of years back, at the end of the Cyclone Winston, there were many countries coming, including Indonesia. In your perspective, Minister, how significant is that partnership of Fiji and Indonesia in disaster reduction and climate change?
Thank you. We value the strong relationship that we have between our two countries, and I am thankful that the commitment is shown through the establishing of our diplomatic positions through the embassies both in Suva and here
In Jakarta,
Jakarta. But it's not only that, but the cooperation that has evolved over the years, and it continues to get better and stronger.
Right.
And I'm thankful that we have made, or our leaders have made those commitments. Indonesia to us is a big brother, and we have a lot to learn from Indonesia. And we are thankful that during our challenging times as well, Indonesia came to our assistance.
Right.
Again, back to Tropical Cyclone Winston, one of the top schools in Fiji, government schools, Queen Victoria School, was badly affected.
Right.
And that is a school that has produced a lot of national leaders over the years.
Right,
And QBS was rebuilt. And again, this year,
And that symbolizes that cooperation.
that
with
symbolizes
Indonesia.
that cooperation.
Now,
And I'm thankful that the minister too, for BNPB,
Yes.
has visited Fiji on a few occasions.
Right.
And I also have MOU, and I look forward to visiting
To implement those MOU
his
and
office as
visit,
well,
right.
and revisit the MOU and
Yeah.
see how we can continue to build
Excellent.
on what we have agreed
Just
together.
additional note on that, Minister. I also understand that the Indonesian Climate and Geological Agency actually provided the services to the weather office in Nadi as well, and Fiji being the center for the Pacific cooperation on weather and climate. So maybe that's another avenue that could be strengthened, could be enriched. And I understand some colleague from Fiji came here for training and all that. Anyway, colleagues and friends, our honorable ministers here. So, Minister, just to end our conversation, if there is a wisdom words or thoughts that we'd like to share with our audience, I would like to invite you to do that now.
Thank you. There are only two important messages that perhaps I want to share. One, we need to take ownership, take responsibility if we are to ensure that no one is left behind. We are all in this together.
Right.
Government has a responsibility. Communities have a responsibility. Non-government, civil society, faith-based organizations. If we can all take our responsibilities seriously, then definitely nobody will be left behind, and we will ensure that we are all progressing despite the challenges that we face.
Right.
Secondly, is all about SDG Goal 17, partnership. No one is able to do this together. We need each other. We need one another. Fiji is a small island, a developing states in the Asia Pacific region. And of course, we look forward to the next Asia Pacific Ministerial Conference that will be held in
Brisbane,
September
in
in
September,
Brisbane.
right.
But in between these conferences, what we do in between matters most. And that is particularly when we want to create a better world, not only for our people, but most importantly for our
for
children
the
in the
next
years to come.
generation. So, ladies and gentlemen, those were the wisdom words of Honorable Minister Serui Ratu. One is that everyone need to own up to their responsibility to make sure that no one is left behind. And number two, clearly, partnership is the key to achieving the SDGs if we want to have better future. This is Puji Pujiono again from the Rumah Resiliensi Indonesia. Honorable Minister, thank you very much for your presence.
Thank you, my brother.
And
God bless you.
thanks to you all. I will see you in the next opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.